Dr. Sean Orr from the Braincast. This is the official podcast of the Neurogenesis Project, and we'd just like to welcome you here today as we talk about things that are related to brain function and improving your own brain function. I'm really excited that you're here today, and I'm just going to ask for your forgiveness up front. I've got some sniffles going on today, so if you hear me sniffing, I apologize for that. Dr. Drew Edwards and Doug Wilder will be joining us here shortly with his guest, Cyndy Ferguson, who we're very excited to have on board. And while we're waiting for them to join, I think it's wanted to kind of point out to our listeners today that there's an interesting new study that just got published. You know, we're very interested in cognition, and especially in cognition as people age. We hear so much information about the genetics of Alzheimer's disease and all of the risk factors that are involved, et cetera. But it seems like the more that time goes on, the more we realize that behavior and environment play a huge role in trying to mitigate the effects of Alzheimer's disease. So there's a very interesting study that was just published here in PLOS here recently. I'm just pulling that up right now. If you'd like to follow our Twitter lead, I'll put our link for Twitter into the comments below, and I would encourage you to follow us on Twitter as well. But this new study that was just published describes how a healthy lifestyle is linked to better cognition for even the oldest adults, regardless of genetic risk. So I thought we'd just break that down for a minute here and kind of focus on this issue of genetics versus epigenetics. And genetics is something that until recently we really couldn't change. And even right now, it's still not very practical. Many of you may have heard of CRISPR as a technology that is starting to be used to change the genetic code. But that still is a very challenging thing to go through, is to change the genetics. But what you can change is your behavior and your environment. And these all pertain to epigenetics. Epigenetics is the control system over your DNA, or your master code of your genes. So I'll post a link to this article. I'd really like to invite your comments and feedback, but I would encourage you as you're going through the process of aging, if you want to optimize your cognitive function and protect yourself, think about how you conduct your daily activities. Think about how much time you spend exercising versus being sedentary. And I know that we hear these things all the time, right? You got to get up, you got to move, you got to eat right, got to sleep. They seem kind of common sense, and they're almost saturated, really, if you think about it, to the point where a lot of people just give up on those strategies and want the quick fix. But the truth is, we just don't have a quick fix for Alzheimer's disease. We don't have a quick fix for cognitive decline. It really seems like keeping a really healthy lifestyle seems to be the key to maintaining proper brain function. So I'll put another link in the comments below for those of you who are interested in learning more about how we here at the Neurogenesis Project help our patients and our coaching clients to achieve higher levels of brain function through those strategies, what we call brain building strategies. And I would encourage you to take a look. All right. Well, looks like Doug Wilder has joined us. I'm going to bring you in. Good morning, Doug. How are you today?
Good morning. I am doing fabulous. I'm excited about today. And it's good to see you.
Well, thank you. Likewise. I'm sure that Dr. Edwards will be joining us here momentarily. But I wanted to just welcome you back in. It's always a real pleasure to have you here for these podcasts. And this is our 8th Braincast that we put together so far, and you've been a big part of that. So thank you for everything that you've contributed. Do you want to tell the viewers a little bit about your background for somebody who hasn't seen you before, and how you got into cahoots with us in terms of brain function, and maybe go ahead and introduce your guest as looks like Dr. Edwards is joining us.
Morning.
Drew. Hey. So I just invited Doug to give the viewers a little bit of a feedback about who he is and how he got connected with us.
Yes, Doug Wilder, Wilder Business Success. I make sure people are happy in business, and that means de-stressing. It means making sure that they can do their marketing and sales and manage their employees, manage their family. So there's a lot to it. But so how I got connected with the Neurogenesis group is I think the original time, I'm not sure when was the original time you and I met, Sean, but there were some brief. Um, um, I think my wife Dot teaching Francesca how to either play the piano or sing might have had something to do with it, and um, there were some other interactions. It was amazing how much um, our lives have spun us together.
That's true.
And same
Yeah.
with Dr. Drew.
Yeah, your wife Dot did a great job coaching my daughter how to sing, and I'm always grateful for that. Dot's an accomplished musician and tour de force here in the Northeast Florida community. And you're right, we crossed paths a number of times, and I really came to respect you as a leading coach for executives, for attorneys, for people who are struggling, who need a lifeline. And all of us struggle at some time or another. I have. I know anybody that I've worked with has. And I could not recommend somebody higher. Could not recommend anybody higher than you to help to bail out somebody who's really needing help at work, and that touches all areas of life, right?
Yes.
So
sure
we're very very fortunate to be connected to you here, and Dr. Edwards. Just as before we brought Doug in here, I'm going to put some comments in the links below. But I found an article that just got published. That talks about cognition in later life, and regardless of genetics, it looks like living a healthy lifestyle has a bigger impact on cognition than anything. And so I think as we work our way through this idea of brain building strategies and helping people to perform at a higher level, that concept really resonates with our audience. So any thoughts on what that means for a healthy lifestyle as we age?
For me, having grown up as an athlete and a sport athlete in college, and always my original discipline self came through athletics and pushing myself cardiovascularly. And it was about that time I learned how to become a student as well, and I don't think that's a coincidence. I was getting plenty of oxygen into my brain, and that's the point of we need both. And and this will sound very overly general and maybe obvious, Captain Obvious here, but we've separated the brain and the body for centuries as like two different things, and treated them as two different things, and they're not. The brain and the body are part of just our human anatomy, and they're interconnected in ways we still don't fully understand. But what the brain thinks is real is real. Phantom leg syndrome taught us that, right? Guys got their legs blown off, and it says my ankle itches. Well, the brain's very powerful effect on what the body experiences and how the whole nervous system controls us. And so yeah, you cannot have a healthy, happy, functioning brain in this new neuroeconomy without a heart that's really pumping oxygen in there and keeping your body fit. And it's common sense, but we're not going to end up with brains in bottles and thinking our way through the rest of life like a matrix. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, great point. The brain in the jar is a sexy trope in the sci-fi arena, but really having a good, healthy body is the whole point of having a body is to carry our lateral prefrontal cortex around so we can get things done. So great. Well, I think this is a good intro. Doug, if you'd like to go ahead and let us know who you've invited into today's Braincast and give a bit of an introduction to Cyndy Ferguson here. Why don't you bring her in and then we'll add her in.
All right, excellent. Yeah, Cyndy Ferguson. Cyndy Ferguson, I met her probably 10 to 15 years ago at a company that I was coaching. I was embedded into their organization and coaching there, and she was one of the bright stars there, and so just enjoyed working with her. Then several years later, well, just a couple months ago, she reached out to me and said, "Hey, can we talk?" And so And so we have, and she continues to be a bright star. And now she started a new company just, I believe it was the Monday. On Monday, she started a new company. So, and wow, she's off to a racing start already. So very exciting what she's going through right at this point. So I'd love to have her come on and we can talk to her. Oh, and there she is. Hi, Cyndy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Cyndy. I don't think we're picking up your voice here very well. I don't know if you want to check your mic and just make sure that that's.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, much better.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah,
Great.
thank you. Welcome. Thanks for joining us in our Braincast today. It's great to have you here.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, Doug's been bragging about you and the success you've been having, and so we're always interested in understanding how Doug's process works from the perspective of helping to reduce stress and thereby increase the potential for good brain function. So
yeah.
Doug, you want to go ahead and take it from here?
Yes, I will, and any of you jump in right in. But I'd love for Cyndy to tell us a little bit about her and her business. Before we get started with de-stress tools. So, Cyndy, why don't you tell us what your business is and how that's working?
Okay. Thanks, Doug. I currently own an IT consulting business called Agile Cloud, and I focus primarily on assisting small and medium businesses to implement sales software. So I bring 20 years of business experience and IT knowledge to really understand what executives and business users need to get out of a CRM system. And I help them either enhance what they already have in place or create and build a brand new instance for them. So that is what I am doing. I am also going to be starting a nonprofit IT apprenticeship company very soon because the model of the apprenticeship was very key in the post-World War II era in developing that workforce. And I think as we look forward to the workforce of tomorrow, they're going to need to be IT skilled people, and formal education is not for everyone. So by putting people through an IT apprenticeship, which will be free to all of the students selected, we will build a great workforce of IT workers for tomorrow.
Amazing. It always strikes me how people who do excellent work do more and more things, and it just it's just incredible how much can actually be accomplished in a day. And I don't know how you do it, Cyndy, but so, and you just started your business. Well, you've actually had your business for a while, right? But it's just really launched in a very aggressive way on Monday. Is that sort of the concept?
Yes, correct. So after, when COVID came, the pandemic last year, I decided I was going to start my own consulting business, kind of dabbled into it. I was really not mentally in the space to do it, which I'll get into. And one of the reasons I reached out to Doug was I was extremely overwhelmed and stressed. So I just put it on the back burner, just got a regular job job. And, after a year realized, okay, I need help to break out of this box that I had put myself in. So that's when I reached out to Doug and said, hey, I need to talk. And because I'm having these issues, I don't know. I feel like my feet are planted in concrete and I can't move forward. So that's and Doug has been tremendously helpful in getting me kind of out of that box.
Tell me more about those symptoms.
Sorry, Doug, I just
go ahead.
Want to make a comment or just affirm one of the things you said about your apprenticeship program that really excited me. The idea that college isn't for everyone. And you think of what's changed in the last 30 years. And it kind of occurred to me, we went away to college because that's where the books were, and that's where the library was. that's the only access we had to that information, was you went to this other place and the teachers lived there and the books lived there. And that's really not necessary today as it was then, right? I can find anything on this little machine I'm looking at you on faster. I used to spend hours looking up 2 articles in the library.
Right.
That tells you how old I am. I think Lincoln was president then. And yes, people can be totally happy and learn what they want to. And if they can get a career in IT and are very good at it and love what they do, they'll be happy, productive citizens. And this mantle of where'd you go to college, I think it's fading a little bit. It should. But the purpose is to be a happy, productive citizen and like what you do and contribute to the, as Aristotle said, the polity, the common good. And so I really applaud what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's interesting. The schools is where the books were. That's fascinating because we no longer need that. We have all that we have right at our fingertips. Yeah, good. Well, Cyndy, tell me more about the symptoms that you were experiencing before we met and before we talked. What are some of the specifics?
So as Doug mentioned, I worked for a company that he was engaged with, and I was a very young executive, like you said, rising star, very ambitious. And that was, 15 years ago. 5 years ago, I had a lot of life changes. I got divorced. I decided to go into business with some business partners. And the only way to describe that was that it was a beautiful disaster. It was a completely horrible experience. And it really kind of was the catalyst for the next 4.5 years for me. I really kind of lost my mojo, lost a lot of my confidence, kind of just went through a couple of jobs, decided, okay, I need to do something. And I found my way in the IT field, and I really enjoy it. I love it. I think IT is the future, and you don't have to be super mathy or, brainy to do it. It's not that hard. And so, I was working for a regular company, nonprofit company, and I just felt like they were not appreciating what I was doing. My request for, a review of my compensation went unanswered. And that just really bothered me, right? If an employee asks you for a raise, they deserve an answer. And to just ignore me, I was really getting angry and resentful. And it kind of came through in my interactions with some of the directors at the company, where at one point on a webinar with the director, I really said, this is ridiculous. What are you blocking this project for? And I really kind of maybe overstepped, but I kind of credit that with the anger I was feeling for not being appreciated for my work and not being compensated for my work. So I realized, okay, this might be my problem. This isn't the company's problem. This might be me. I'm angry. Why am I so angry? So I reached out to Doug. We sat down over coffee. We talked, and immediately, he gave me some great tools to kind of bring my stress level down. When you're angry and resentful, it really kind of hijacks your brain a little bit. You guys would know more than I would, but it makes clear thinking difficult. It makes decision-making difficult. And I really didn't want to keep making poor decisions, such as, being overly confrontational with coworkers. I knew that was not going to serve me at all. So I said, okay, I needed to take a moment, ask for help. I had known Doug, and I reached out, and the first thing he told me, he says, look, happiness is a choice. And I had always known that, but I just was so angry that I was choosing to be angry. And instead of just accepting that, look, the reality is they don't value you. Even though you think they should give you a raise, they have not. So you holding on to this should scenario is really impacting your ability to accept what is, right? The reality is no raise, no appreciation. So even though I thought that they should, Doug kind of helped me realize, so what? You can believe whatever you want, but the reality is this. And that was really a good trigger for me to kind of say, okay, let's look at reality, and I need to set my shoulds aside. I should be paid more. I should be this. I should be that. And feeling less resentful almost immediately, and I just was able to let it go, right? And the next thing Doug said as well, just he has this concept called happy and delighted, and I just love that because it's so easy, but it's so hard, right? You have to choose to be happy and delighted, right? It really is a choice. And I had spent most of my life very happy right up until these last 5 years. It was really, this catalyst. It just kind of lost my way. And now I feel happy and delighted all the time. So I'm super excited. I'm on this journey of, developing my company, developing a business, implementing this IT apprenticeship program. And I'm really excited. I wish I could clone myself or have more hours in the day because I have so many ideas and things I want to accomplish. I just don't have enough time to do everything.
Excellent. That's a great description of what I saw from an outsider, you going through this process. And it's interesting to hear the tools that really seem to make a difference to you. The choice, the changing should to could, the looking at your perception of what ought to be, and then what is reality.
Right.
And when those are different, it creates stress. So if you want non-stress, you get reality and perception to equal.
Yeah.
And then the happy and delighted, that's my favorite one, and it's probably worth copywriting, as you said, or trademarking.
I did ask you if you had copyrighted that phrase.
Yeah, I did talk to a great intellectual property attorney, Camille Wilson, and she is, we're looking into that right now. So thank you.
Sure.
So it sounds like you saw a transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Has it manifested itself in different places in your world, or is it just with coworkers? How extensive is this transformation?
Well, it's been transformational in my personal family relationships. I've always had a very strained relationship with my mother because I always felt she should and could be doing other things. And now I'm at a place of this is who my mother is, and I just accept her for who she is. And I think a lot of family strife could be solved by balancing that equation of perception equals reality, and just realizing we're all human beings with flaws and our own struggles. My son, who was 19 years old, came to me not long ago and said, "Mom, I didn't realize adults had problems." I just thought that was hilarious. He just, yes. And just wait.
That's right. More to come. Terrific. Okay, great. So you went through this transformation, and you found that in your interactions with people that that life got better for them, for you. How did it?
Yes.
How did that manifest itself?
Well, I sleep great because I don't have so many things weighing on my mind. I can really, when I turn off the computer at night, I really turn it off. It's not I'm not working, right? I mean, I do work a lot, but once that computer goes off, then it's like time to open a book for enjoyment. It had been a long time before I could really just calm down enough to read a book. And
Yeah.
I don't know if other people, doctors, if you have seen other people, like I've been an avid reader my whole life. And these past years, when I have gone through all of this stress, I have not been able to focus on finishing a book. And now I feel like I can relax enough to enjoy reading again. And I'm reading Dune right now in anticipation of the movie coming out.
Nice.
So.
Very good. I like your style.
Yeah.
Yeah, the remake looks amazing.
Yes.
And that's not a small book to read.
No,
so that's
no.
a challenge.
It's a lot of fun, and and I love science fiction books, and I read plenty of self-help and business books, but I would really, I really wanted to get back into fiction. I like Stephen King. I like, kind of a wide variety of fiction. So I would say, Doug, that, clearing those mental cobwebs out, getting that stress out, has allowed me to really kind of go back to the things I had been missing that I didn't know I was missing, like reading for enjoyment. I've started a good exercise routine, which I had done before, but this is the first time in my life I've really dedicated myself to regular exercise. I have some iron deficiency anemia, which makes cardio exercise very difficult for me. So I focus mostly on strength training, like Pilates and weightlifting. So that's been incredible. I feel so strong. I feel very healthy. I recently went hiking in Maine in Acadia National Park, and it was challenging, but I was able to do quite a bit more than I thought I was going to be able to do. So, the whole thing is so, I can, I have more freedom to read. My sleep is better. My family relationships are better. Exercise is just helping round me out a little bit. And I just can't say enough, good things about Doug, and just helping me shape that vision. Putting down what my ideal future looks like was really helpful. Because, a goal without, like a wish, it's just a wish if you don't write it down, right? It's just like, oh, I wish this one day. But if you write it down, now you can hold yourself to it. And I did that right after Doug and I had talked the first time, and I wrote 2 things down, and I kept it right here, tacked to my little board. And within 60 days, I had reached that goal.
Wow.
which I thought was going to be a stretch, but 60 days done. So now I have to think of the next goal.
Your process of how you dug out of this hole from being, I guess, maybe bitter or resentful about the way the business was, but that had, it's like this situation is occupying your life, and it's organized around this anger and this, and then Doug told you to, don't worry, be happy, and boom.
Yeah.
I'm not oversimplifying it, but I want to get back to Doug in just a minute. But you talk about reading and exercise and all those things, and it's so important that sometimes the busier we get and the farther we go up the food chain in an organization, the less refreshment we find in life. And you found through reading and exercise and travel that you're able to be refreshed, shut down the laptop, and go to sleep. And sleep and have refreshing sleep. And that's rare in this world, in this economy that we're in, that you've been able to crack that nut. That's very, very good. We wish our, people who come to see us could do that as quickly and as well done that.
Yeah.
That's like, it's got to be music to your ears hearing about her sleep and her reading and exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is truly amazing. Sean, I wonder from a neurological standpoint, what do you see happening here with Cyndy?
I just want to congratulate you, Cyndy. This is really exciting, and I feel like you're a model for so many people who are struggling. As we're going through the this big transformation in society that got kind of kickstarted in March last year, there are a lot of people flailing. and feeling anxiety and feeling lost and rudderless right now.
Right.
So your model that you've embraced here is exactly what we try to espouse. And I like to say things aren't real until you write them down. So if you think about what's going on when your brain has all of these thoughts that are bouncing around and you're ruminating, I imagine you probably used to ruminate at nighttime when you're trying to fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Those thoughts will be bouncing around your brain.
Right.
They take up energy. Every thought actually requires us to utilize ATP molecules. ATP is the currency of energy in our brain, just like electricity is for our computers, right? And that currency comes with a price. And it also comes with waste products that build up in our brain. So as Dr. Edwards was mentioning, sleep is such a critical strategy for us. When I was going through my medical training, we had a saying, which was that, there'll be time to sleep when I die. And unfortunately, that probably put me about 10 years closer to that goal of death. To get 14 hours of sleep a week was absolutely toxic, as you can see with my hairline. To not get sleep is a recipe for poor performance, for poor health, and anxiety and stress. So, by Doug catalyzing some changes in your thinking, it sounds like what you've done is you've unlocked a series of steps that you have found have worked for you. And so this is one of the big things that we like to focus on, is this idea of transformation. And I hear, Doug, you're using this word several times throughout our talk today, which is great. Transformation requires changing behavior. You're changing form from one place to another. So if you can just kind of help us understand, Cyndy, when you were at the point where you reached out to Doug because you realized you needed a lifeline, can you give us just maybe a 4 or 5 bullet point list of how you were then versus how you envisioned life could be in its best version?
Sure. So I really felt stuck.
Mm-hmm.
I felt, trapped, I guess, in my own rumination, as you would say, just this like hamster wheel of just, bad feelings. People always talk about the tape in your head. It was just not positive, right? And, just angry. I couldn't relax. I felt like all I could do was work, and I couldn't really enjoy life. In my younger days, I was very much a people pleaser, and I recognized that about myself. And so I always tended to do more than what was expected. And, I'm coming to realize I don't have to do so much more for other people. I can do what's necessary, right?
I want to put a pin in that concept and come back to it in a few minutes. So
Sure.
If I hear you saying that you were stuck, trapped, angry, probably insecure,
very,
and overworking without a reward.
Right.
And so when you started to map out in your mind what your ideal future life would be, then how did you envision that life? What were some words that you would use to describe maybe the way you are now, as opposed to then?
Sure. So one of the things I have always loved to do is mentor and help people kind of move up in their own careers. And that's really the genesis of my IT apprenticeship program, right? That's my why in life, is to help other people achieve their own success, right? Maybe I'll never be Doug Wilder, but I'll be Cyndy Ferguson. That's part one. Part two is I wanted to build a business that is based on hiring people from this apprenticeship, so that I can train them my way, the Cyndy way, right? They can understand what it takes to be successful in an IT consulting business. And hopefully, they will one day leave me, either go start their own businesses or go on to better things. I can't stress enough how much helping other people achieve success is so fulfilling and meaningful to me.
So is it fair to say then that where you were stuck and trapped before, now you feel free
Absolutely.
And you feel liberated to be able to pursue the interests that you have, whether they're generating a profit for your business or not. You feel like you're serving a higher purpose now.
Yes, I definitely feel that I am serving a higher purpose. I had done lots of volunteer work back 10, 15 years ago. But again, once I hit that part of my life, that roadblock, I stopped volunteering. I stopped being social. I really just closed myself off to most of my support system. My family interactions were struggling. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And while I was able to get some of the way back out of there through just sheer muscle memory and sheer will, Doug has really helped me kind of get past, the last roadblocks, which were the insecurity. What do I do now? I have this vision. I don't even know where to start. I have all of this knowledge. I have all this desire. And so let's create a vision of the future where I can utilize all my skills, help other people, run a regular business, make a great living, and help other people while I do it. That to me is the ultimate success.
Great. I like to play on that concept for a minute here, and I very much want to hear what Dr. Edwards has to say about this in terms of that sense of insecurity. Is it too strong to say that at one point you felt like you were not worthy of a higher level of success?
Oh, sure. I was really beaten down. I felt that this business failure, right, that I had talked about, that was just a beautiful disaster, that really hit me down hard. I'm a pretty resilient person, but this really laid me out, and it took a lot to drag myself back to like normalcy. In fact, I was diagnosed with depression for a short while. And so, I was able to get through that, but I never really got back to where I was before. But now that I've been working with Doug, I feel like not only am I back to where I was, I think I'm definitely beyond and still more to go, right, to where I can be. But yes, the insecurity and the feeling worthlessness was very heavy on me. My business failed. My business partners were, terrible people. But what I did learn from that was that I did like being in business. I just did not like having business partners. So now I will be in business for myself. So that is the one lesson I took from that experience that I think is, for me, was extremely liberating. Is that, okay, I think I can do it, but you know what? I'm just going to do it my way, and not have to deal with, other opinions, other people who disagree. I don't mind being confrontational. I rather like to say I don't mind having difficult conversations, but I expect people to be rational when we have conversations.
Well,
so, yeah.
Talk about unrealistic expectations.
Right. I need to balance that equation, Doug. Should and reality and perception.
Dr. Edwards, can you weigh in a little bit on that key concept that we see so often of worthlessness?
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Cyndy. First, Doug, I gotten to know Doug. I've known Doug for about a year and a half, 2 years, and I've gotten to know him a lot better this last year. And this relates to kind of your experience, Cyndy. But Doug, how he does his thing is he listens. He listens to what you're feeling and wanting and knowing, and he's so good at reframing things so you can hear them. 100 people could have told you some of those things, but you heard it from him because you knew he was authentic. He got you. He felt it. And the second thing is that we all read these books about you got to fail in life to learn. And we all say, well, yeah, but that's not me. And then until it is me, and then it hurts. But out of that failure, you learn. And I learned that I couldn't really work for anybody, because it had to be me, And the other thing, being a people pleaser, and I want to ask you about this shifting. So being a people pleaser is pretty broad stroke here, but it's trying to give and help other people so to improve the relations in the workplace. And so some of us are very task oriented and some of us are relational oriented, and some people stay at the same workplace because their friends are there and that's the family for them, and we want that to be a nice place. I think you were able to my theory would be you shifted some of that into, dang it, I'm gonna do it my way, and then you started this mentorship program. And what we've learned about giving, we feel lonely and sad and we want love, but human beings have to give love. They have to give it and target it on something other than themselves. And when they do that, their brain releases oxytocin. Same drug you get when you deliver a baby. This little creature inside of you is killing you and it comes out and you love it, right? So your brain needs to give love. And you learned how to do that through your mentorship program. And now you don't have to be a people pleaser anymore. I mean, you're a good person, but you don't have to do that to feel good, but you're just a natural giver. And you found an excellent way to balance your life. And I just applaud you and applaud Doug for helping you see that and figure that out.
Thank you.
I agree. And I would like to kind of pick up on something that you mentioned, Cyndy, which is that you're a resilient person. So I'd like to take a few minutes to go through a little exercise with you here, because I'm curious to see if you fit the bill. And I think people who are listening to this and watching will benefit from this. So let's talk about this idea of fragility for a minute. An object or a system that is fragile is easily disrupted, or it's damaged if a disruptive force comes across it, right? So we can think of, let's say, a crystal wine glass. If I knock wine glass onto the floor, it's going to shatter, right? Because it's fragile. So that disruptive force of the floor is now taking that wine glass and it's damaging it. So maybe you could start with a couple of words, synonyms for fragility, things that come to mind in your particular life. How would you see fragility in your world? Things that are fragile are also what?
Delicate. That's a really good question. I'm just going to think on that. Yeah, it's like very delicate, beautiful. Like put in a little cage just to be looked at, not to be used. Maybe. That's a really good question.
I remember feeling weak when I was in that situation, but weak. Yeah, I didn't like that. And did you feel that when you were?
Yes. Yes, I felt very powerless, and I felt like I had no agency over my own direction. And that's really what Doug unlocked, is almost like giving me permission to take back control of where I'm going to go. Right. That was, I would say, if there was, a moment, it was the ability to recognize that I do have agency to chart my own course. That was transformative for me in working with Doug.
There you go.
Great. So let's come back to that in a second. So the things that are fragile are delicate, protected, as you described, weak. It's funny, most people struggle with this because they're trying to think how they might be fragile in some fashion, and none of us really likes to admit that we might be, right?
Right.
But the thing is that the course of human history is fraught with all sorts of examples of how we are easily destroyed, dismembered, decimated, decapitated, smashed, crushed, obliterated. There are all sorts of ways to be fragile. If you step on a stick and it turns out to be a snake, you die. If you stand a little too close to a cliff and it crumbles, you die. If you walk in front of a bus, you die. So we're very fragile creatures, right? When's the last time you saw somebody, have an accident? Well, it happens all the time. So thinking about this idea that, objects that are fragile are easily destroyed by a disruptive force, what would you say is the opposite of fragile? What are some words that come to mind when you think about the opposite of fragile?
Sturdy.
Good.
Well built, I guess, would be another way to put that. Um, I have a couple more. Let me just think.
You used the word
Opposite of
resilient
fragile.
at one point, right? Resilience is
Yeah,
something that we hear about a lot.
yeah. Resilient. Just hardy, hardy, sturdy, stout. Just things
Excellent.
like that. I really think.
Great. No, you're right on track. Most people think, well, if I'm going to avoid being fragile, then what do I have to be? I have to be strong,
Yeah.
immutable,
Yeah.
permanent, unchangeable, resilient, steadfast. Words that describe strength to some degree, right?
Mhm.
And the opposite of weak for us is strength, right?
Right.
So, but I would challenge that idea a little bit. So if you think about things that are fragile, are when they're encountering a disruptive force, they're actually transformed. I would argue transformed for the worse. That wine glass now is a pile of glass shards. I can no longer use it. It's been transformed for the worse. But if you think about transformation, if you think about fragility in terms of transformation, when you're transforming something for the worse, the opposite doesn't mean resisting transformation. The opposite of being transformed for the worse is being transformed for the better.
Better. Mm-hmm.
That's not a very intuitive concept, right? Like, when's the last time you saw somebody stand in front of a bus and get hit and actually come out of there feeling stronger than ever? It generally doesn't happen, right? But in a way, you kind of were hit. You were hit by a bus.
Yeah.
Kind of figuratively, you
figuratively, yeah.
Got out of your business and got into business, and it failed, and then you felt miserable and depressed as a result of it.
Yeah.
But is it fair to say that now you feel stronger than you did before?
Oh, without question.
And you feel
I feel very strong, and I just feel like nothing could really stop me. I really just don't think anything can. I'm sure, hey, I could get sick and I won't, but I have no control over that, right? So there are things that can happen that you don't have control over, but there are things that you do have control over, right? Your mindset, your environment, how you set up your life.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So in the process of this transformation, you've moved from a place of being fragile to a place of being not just strong and sturdy, but actually anti-fragile.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
So we like to endorse this idea of anti-fragility because it really is a very liberating idea. Mm-hmm. That when an obstacle comes against you, right, instead of it being an opportunity for becoming a victim to it, you actually can, with the right coach, become a champion. You just have to know how to overcome that obstacle, that challenge. And so it sounds to me like you've had a really great experience of transformation and anti-fragility training under the tutelage of Mr. Wilder.
Yes.
And so I'd encourage you and our listeners who are paying attention to this to start to look at the world and the challenges that come across your plate, not as opportunities for victimization, but as opportunities for growth and improvement and championship. And so it sounds like you just said you feel somewhat invincible. You get there by getting that anti-fragile mindset. So congratulations.
People will call us because something is stressing them out big time. And you talked to Doug because you were stressed and depressed, I think, and the world was looking pretty dark for you. And when we get to that hopeless state, it's bad. I mean, we feel alone. And but what people are familiar with the fight or flight idea. There's fear and threats around you, and you either run or you think I've got to just buck up and I'm going to take on this monster, and likely I might get beat up. And two other components to that system in the brain. It's located in our amygdala. That's part of our survival drive. It keeps us from running into the same lion twice, right? The first one ate my kid. I'm not going to let the other one near me, right? You get threatening. And so things remind us of threats. But the third thing, besides fight and flight, is freeze. We just don't know what to do. And in the horror movies, the little girl just stands there when the monster's coming to eat her because she's just doesn't know what to do. Her brain is locked up. But the fourth one is flow. you learn how to, as Dr. Orr likes to say, we jujitsu this force coming at us. We don't let it hurt us, and then the force smashes itself into the wall. Kind of the Bruce Lee model, become water, my friend. He talked about, he looked at his world as not letting people hurt him because he had trained his brain, then his body, to avoid being hurt. And he talked about flow all the time. And Doug talks about flow all the time. How do I flow around this big obstacle and not get hurt and just keep going where I'm going down this river? There's a big rock there. How do I get around it? Well, Doug is just great at helping people navigate that thing and get to where you want to get without having to fight or run away from it the other way and start again. So we're all about getting people into flow. And that requires some mentoring and some coaching and some help, because we weren't meant to go through the world alone like this. We were meant to someone mentor us, and now you're mentoring others. So it's a beautiful synergy here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. It's nice to see how you're recalibrating your life and setting your sights in different directions so that you're going to essentially become a master of ceremonies, as we like to call it. When people are going through the transformative process and they fall into that gap, whether it's getting ready to get married or going through college or getting bar mitzvahed or whatever it is, that gap period is where people are very vulnerable, and they look to somebody who's a master of ceremonies who knows the rituals to walk them through the process successfully, and then finally sign off when they've achieved mastery of what it is that they're trying to do. So so we're recruiting people like you in the world to go out and transform the lives of others on a massive scale. So wishing you all the best with the mentorship program. This is great. Doug, you want to take back control here?
Yeah, just momentarily, because I want to ask Cyndy if you've got this new business, you've got this apprenticeship program. Do you want people to get in touch with you if they think that they might be a good fit or you might be a good fit for them and their future? And if so, how do they get in touch with you?
I am on LinkedIn, LinkedIn/Cyndy Ferguson, CYNDY Ferguson. Happy to connect with anyone there. My email's way too long to give you over podcast, but I'll send it to you if you like. I don't have a website yet, but that'll all be forthcoming very soon. But thank you.
Good.
Great.
But it's easy to get in touch with you. LinkedIn at
that's the best way.
Cyndy Ferguson, and
That's
there's two Y's in Cyndy because you have discovered your why, and then some. So that's terrific. Good. This has been fabulous for me to hear a recap of your situation and how you've really taken control. And I look at being out of control is when you're mad, angry, and then when all of a sudden you find out you have choices, that makes you in control. And suddenly being in control means you're no longer out of control. You have an open path for you, and I love that the idea of you're getting exercise. When Drew was originally talking, he was talking about how the oxygen is needed for the brain. The brain needs oxygen, and you can get that through exercise. So those things are terrific, particularly when you choose to be happy and delighted. Any last thoughts, Cyndy?
It's been a pleasure. I appreciate this opportunity to share my story and how Doug has really helped me tremendously. I can't recommend him highly enough. I'm excited to see what the next 6 months bring and see where I'm at there.
Right. Yes, if you were to see somebody who had similar challenges you had, what would you tell him or her?
I don't know if I'm qualified, but I would just tell them that, it's okay to ask for help, because it is hard, when you really get into a very, I guess you'd say, fragile or vulnerable position. It's hard to make decisions, and that it's okay to rely on other people. I think a lot of us have a hard time recognizing that we might need help. And I think we need to destigmatize that. And only through connections and support of our village, so to speak, can we really help each other get and stay healthy.
Yes.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah,
thank
well
you for
said.
those insights, Cyndy. It's very
Thank
nice
you.
to have you with us, and we'll go ahead and
My pleasure.
look for your future successes, and hopefully have you back one day so you can tell us how you transformed to the next level.
Would love to do that. Thank you.
Great. Have a good one. You take care.
You too. Bye.
So great job, Doug. You've got another happy client, and great fodder for your book. You want to tell folks what you're writing about here and your project?
Right. The working title is, or is Doug's de-stress tools, and maybe Wilder de-stress tools. That might have a better name for it, but it may have something completely else. Happy and Delighted might be another title for it. But what we're doing is we're gathering success stories of people who have gone through this transformation, gone from being perhaps out of control or not as or being somewhat stressed out, burned out, and how they've become all that they could be by just a mind shift. And so writing the book, and with your help, Sean and Dr. Drew, and so I think this is going to be a comprehensive book on de-stress and how it affects you psychologically, neurologically, and then practically how you can move through this fragile world into a world that, what did she say, sturdy and hardy, stout, strong, but even more than that, just anti-fragile. And so I think it'll come out at the end of this year, because I've made that commitment. So I've got till December 31st, 2021 to get it, and I'm meeting that pressure with excitement, and not in a negative way, but it's good pressure, very good pressure. And so I appreciate the two of you adding to this. Every time you speak, I learn a little bit more that I hadn't really heard those words before, and so both of you were, so I'm filtering all this, and if anybody has any suggestions on how they de-stress, I would love to hear from them, and because we're moving this along. This is going to be a great project, a great book, and particularly in these stressful times, it's time now to become anti-fragile.
Yeah, we're seeing the effects of despair all around us right now, and imagine all of those people who are ending their lives prematurely, or just dropping out of the workforce or out of society because of a mindset. It's really tragic. So,
yeah.
I think your concept is timely and very much needed. Drew, any last comments you want to close with?
Well, I want to echo what you said. I think we're a society in fear right now, and we feel threats everywhere. We're afraid to say what we think, because it will be responded to, and sometimes harshly. So we're second guessing a lot of things and about ourselves. And I'll just leave with what my friend Jeff said when we were spending time together. He says, "You do you, and I'll do me, and we'll just get along fine," And I think part of anti-fragility is I just got to do me and you got to do you. And we respect that about each other, that, we're different, we're made different, but we can accept how I do things is a little different and find the common ground and learn and always be. But what Doug has taught me is just how to listen for those areas that are opportunities for growth. And he's really good. His radar is really good at honing in on that with his clients. And I've just seen that same comment over and over again. They trust him. And that's so huge. Trust is a big thing right now.
It really is. That's a great way to close. Trust has never been more important probably than now. So, well, thank you very much. This has been great. I think, Doug,
thank you.
Job well done. And we'll look forward to hosting your next success story on our next podcast. And for those of you who are interested, I'll put links below to the our articles and to everyone who's involved here. Please don't hesitate to reach out. If any of you is struggling, there are solutions that abound. There's no reason to struggle in silence. And it's amazing how just one little change in perspective can unlock a totally different life for you. So hopefully we'll be able to help some other folks with this concept. So great. Thanks very much. That's a wrap.
Thank you. Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.